Peppa Pig, the fifth room. The Pig family's house had always been the same: a kitchen, a living room, a bathroom, and two bedrooms upstairs. Peppa knew every step, every creak in the floor, every spot on the wall. But one morning, as she was heading down to the kitchen, she stopped. Between the staircase and the fridge stood a door, narrow, grey, no handle, just a door. Peppa froze. It had never been there before. She called for Mummy. Mummy, without turning away from the stove, calmly replied, "That door has always been there." But her voice sounded just slightly wrong. Peppa came closer. There was no lock, but the door wouldn't open. The next day it was there again, and this time slightly open. Peppa slowly peeked inside. Darkness, emptiness, the smell of damp and old cloth. The walls, rough like concrete with long cracks. On the floor lay a toy, software, dirty, a copy of George's dinosaur, but not green, grey, and its eyes didn't match. One was glass, the other just a button. Peppa closed the door. Each day the room changed. A chair appeared, then a table, then footprints in the dust, small, hoof-shaped, leading in and out. Sometimes Peppa heard creaking, day or night, once laughter, thin, childlike. She thought it was George, but George was sitting by the window, drawing. He didn't even look at her. When she told her parents, Mummy said, "You're probably just tired." And Daddy quietly added, "There's nothing there." He no longer looked toward that side of the kitchen. On the fourth night, Peppa woke up. Her window was open even though she hadn't touched it. On the floor lay a piece of paper, a child's drawing. It showed her room and the new door. Beside it, a figure, small, dark, faceless, a single line written underneath, "I'm already here." In the morning, Daddy went to work and never came back. Mummy washed a cup and stared at the wall. Peppa asked where George was. Mummy smiled. "He's playing in his room." Her voice was flat, empty, but George wasn't in his room. His bed was neatly made, his toys were in place, silence, and the fifth room's door was wide open. Peppa stepped inside. Inside it was different, a hallway, too long, too narrow, grey walls covered with children's drawings, all the same, a house, a sun, and a black figure next to Peppa, always getting closer, with each drawing, closer. George's shoes lay on the floor, wet, not muddy, as if he'd been standing on the damp floor for a long time. The light bulb flickered. Behind her, a soft click. The door closed. The next day the house was calm. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a bathroom, a living room, 4 rooms, as always, no extra door. But if you stand by the wall between the stairs and the fridge, if you press your ear against it, you might hear soft footsteps, scratching, and a voice that sounds almost like Peppa's, calling your name, slowly, as if learning how to speak again. Peppa Pig, the Tooth Fairy. One morning, Peppa noticed one of her teeth was loose. She showed it to Mummy Pig, who nodded. Nothing unusual, just a baby tooth. It would fall out soon. Peppa was excited. When a tooth falls out, you can place it under your pillow, and in the night, the Tooth Fairy comes. All day, Peppa played with the tooth, wiggling it back and forth. By evening, it finally came out. She wrapped it gently in tissue, placed it under her pillow, and went to bed smiling. The night was quiet at first. In the middle of the night, Peppa woke up. Her room was dark, but not completely. In the corner, a strange glow shimmered, not yellow, not white, a greenish silver light. Something was standing by the door. A figure, tall, too tall, bent over, movements like sliding across the floor. As it came closer, Peppa shut her eyes tight, but even through her eyelids she felt it, something reaching under her pillow. It lasted just a moment, but it felt like she was lying there for hours. When she woke up in the morning, the tooth was gone. Under her pillow was a small, rusty key. The next day, another tooth began to loosen. It fell out without pain, by itself, then another and another. No one seemed to notice. Mummy Pig said it was normal, but other children only lost 1 tooth. Peppa had already lost 7 in 2 days. Each night under the pillow, a new item appeared, a key, a coin with unreadable numbers, a piece of bone, a shard of mirror scratched in the center. Peppa stopped speaking. She didn't smile anymore. She didn't want to eat. Each night she heard steps, floorboards creaked, cold wind came from the closet, though the window was shut. On the sixth night, she woke up and couldn't close her mouth. All her teeth were gone, even the back ones. There was something sitting at the edge of the bed, closer than before. Peppa could see its face now, but it wasn't a face, just skin stretched over something. No eyes, no mouth. On its fingers, a string of teeth tied like beads. The thing leaned forward. Peppa felt the cold and the smell of metal. She tried to scream, but no sound came. In the morning, the bed was empty. Her parents thought Peppa had gone to the garden, but she wasn't there, and not anywhere in the house. On her pillow was a note, scratched into the fabric using enamel. "Thank you."
Peppa Pig. Lost episode. Pause. Everything stopped at 7:42 a.m. Daddy Pig was in the kitchen pouring tea when the spoon slipped from his hoof and froze mid-air. It didn't fall. It simply hung there, perfectly still. At first, he thought it was a trick of the eyes. He blinked, moved, touched the table. Everything felt normal, but only to him. In the other room, Peppa stood frozen with a smile, her hoof reaching out toward George. George, in turn, was offering her a toy. Their faces were still, eyes open, a single moment, captured forever. He tried to speak to them, to touch them. Their bodies were warm but immobile, not lifeless, just paused. He walked through the house. Mummy Pig stood by the stove. Steam from the pot hovered in the air like a dome of glass. The fire below didn't flicker. A droplet from the faucet was caught halfway to the sink. A half-cooked pancake hung from a spatula in mid-flip. Daddy Pig stepped outside. A bird was frozen in the air, wings mid-flap. Leaves on trees were caught in a breeze that no longer blew. The neighbors stood still in their windows. A car sat on the road, unmoving. Its wheels no longer turned. Back inside, the minutes refused to pass. He felt no hunger, no fatigue, no urge to sleep, only silence. He tried the television. The screen remained black. The radio hissed, then fell silent. Clocks no longer ticked. He started writing. Pen and paper still obeyed. He kept a journal, though no one would ever read it. He marked days, on walls, on paper, on himself. Day 1, day 23, day 100. Eventually, he stopped counting. Sometimes he spoke aloud, just to hear something. His voice echoed flatly, like in an empty building. He whispered names, Peppa, George, Mummy, but no one ever replied. He tried carrying Peppa outside once. Her body moved, but outside the house she seemed even less alive, like a toy left in the sun. He brought her back in. The house began to smell strange, not decay. Their bodies never changed. It smelled of vacancy, of absence, like a museum long after closing. He tried everything, shouting, running, praying. He broke mirrors. The reflection always showed just him, alone. At times, he thought the air trembled, like time was ready to restart. He watched the suspended water droplet, waiting, but it never moved. Eventually, he understood. This was forever. On the last day he bothered to count, he sat at the table, staring at the frozen Peppa and George. Their smiles had not faded. Their eyes still sparkled with life they no longer lived. He closed his eyes and imagined them laughing. Peppa Pig, my new friend. The sun was shining. A soft breeze rustled the trees in the garden where Peppa played alone. No one noticed when she suddenly fell silent and stared deep into the woods. From that day on, she began to talk about a new friend. She called him Ello. At first, the adults smiled. All children invent imaginary friends at some point, but Ello was different. Peppa said he lived inside her bedroom wall and only came out when everyone was asleep. Each day, Peppa grew quieter. Her gaze seemed hollow. She stopped laughing at her favorite shows and spent more time staring into corners. She said Ello had told her about a place where everything was quiet, where no one ever left. She said they would all go there soon. The first to disappear was Daddy Pig. He simply didn't wake up. Peppa seemed unbothered. She said Ello took him to the garden so he could play there too. Mummy Pig called the police, the neighbors, everyone, but there was no trace of him. Peppa just stared at her with a small, unreadable smile. The next night, George screamed. His room filled with a low, growling hum, and the lights flickered violently. When Mummy and Peppa rushed in, George was gone. No open windows, no sign of struggle. Just a trail of tiny barefoot prints that ended at the bedroom wall. Peppa stood in the doorway, whispering something no one could understand. Mummy Pig didn't sleep that night. She heard footsteps pacing the hallway, slow and deliberate. Doors creaked open and closed. Shadows moved without light. From Peppa's room, faint laughter drifted through the dark, but it wasn't her voice. In the morning, Mummy Pig entered Peppa's room. The little pig sat on the floor, drawing. On the paper, a black, windowless house, 4 pig-shaped figures standing in a circle. In the center, a faceless figure with long arms holding their hands. Above them, in shaky writing, "We belong to Ello now." That night, Mummy Pig disappeared too. No screams, no struggle, just an empty bed, and on the pillow, a child's crayon card, a drawing of Peppa smiling, and beneath it, "Thank you for staying." Ello doesn't like to be alone. The house stood empty, everything left untouched, as if the family had simply gone out for a walk. Only in Peppa's room, something had begun to appear on the wall, the faint outline of a face slowly taking shape. But no one saw it, no one heard, and in the garden the wind whispered, "Ello is here, Ello is waiting."